And hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another review here on Pez of the Mind. Today, we are taking a look at Enterprise Season 2.
Yep.
Joining me is Chris the Mole.
Hello.
And yes, this Season 2 was interesting. I know the show found a little more of its footing. It explored a little more of the temporal Cold War, but at the same time, explored more of the universe as it was at this time. A lot more about the Klingons being a big focus, which I thought was very cool. A little bit more with the Suleiman, but not too much. Really exploring a little more about the crew's personalities and who they were. Good episodes, bad episodes. Overall, a good season. What do you think, Mo?
Yep. I like this season. It has the worst episode of the entire Enterprise.
Is it the sick bay
But
episode?
yeah,
Yeah, that was
um,
terrible.
thanks for interrupting. But yeah, I was about to say what it was, but cool.
But yeah, so season 2 did some interesting things. Um, they introduced the Romulans a little bit without giving their name. Um, let's see. As I mentioned, they did a lot with the Klingons, establishing more about how the Empire works at this point in time. The fact that it's not quite as honorable as it used to be, or that, as we've seen, it will be again. Um, although the corruption will never really leave. One of the big arcs is that Archer is saves some refugees who were trying to leave the Klingon Empire because they were abandoned and had no food or water, and he was accused of basically treason against the Empire. And he was tried and sentenced to prison, but he managed to escape. And that comes back a little later in the season to bite him in the ass as the Klingons try to get him back through various means,
Yep.
which I thought was really cool.
We also had a follow up on to Paul's mind meld.
Yeah, that was cool.
Which
I like they did that.
Yep, which was handled basically like it should be, like a rape case.
It's basically what it was.
Yep, with them blaming the victim and stuff, which was cool. Which, yeah, messages like that are cool. Like, we had an episode where the doctor's literally talking about how he may be racist, but he's trying to make sure his kids don't grow up to be racist and his grandkids won't grow up to be racist because he wants to just end it where it was. So while he has those prejudices, he also understands that they're wrong and is trying to move forward, which all the generations before him weren't, which that was cool.
That is good, yeah. Dr. Fox is probably my favorite character on the ship, if I'm going to be honest. He's cool. Yeah, that was a good one. What else did they do here? Let's see. They brought the Andorian art came back into play, where the Andorians and Vulcans were about to launch a war over a planet that they both claimed belonged to them, and the Andorian Sean, played by Jeffrey Combs, who of course has appeared earlier as Sean in the season, as well as being well known for Wei Yun in Deep Space Nine, and also played a Ferengi in an episode last season of Enterprise. But he, having worked with Archer before, believes that Archer can be an objective third party, despite having heavily ties with the Romulans. He was willing to objectively help the Andorians when it was the right thing to do. So he asked them that Archer come in to be a mediator for this negotiation over this planet. And despite the things get a little hostile, and not all the Andorians agree with Sean's desire for a peaceful resolution, and ends up being a really cool showing of how the diplomatic role that Starfleet will play in the future among other races in a lot of cases, and how his mediation between the Vulcans and the Andorians is setting foundations for the Federation, which I understand we'll see at the end of the series a little bit more.
No, they were going to show the start of the Federation, but they don't.
Fair enough.
That was one of the cancelled plots for season 5.
Okay.
But we also had my favorite episode of this season. Woo!
Which was that?
Mine was the prequel.
Ah.
I like that one where you get to see Archer and Trip before they were actually on Enterprise, how they met, the type of character Archer was before he becomes a captain, which that's just great.
That was cool. I did like that. I like that other guy they introduced to push that along. That character that unfortunately had passed away, which was the reason for the reminiscence.
Yep.
Oh,
The cocky pilot.
yeah, the first Warp 2 pilot.
Yep.
That was cool. I did like that one. I liked how they brought the Borg back. That was kind of cool. I had heard that had happened somewhere along here, so that was really cool when I realized it was at they're in the Arctic, and I'm like, wait, what? Oh, that's the Borg. Oh crap, this is going to end well.
Yeah, like that. I like that episode. I like the fact that's a sequel and a prequel. But I also don't like the fact it's a sequel and a prequel at the same time.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Not
But
just not just because of the story thing and before people spew the predetermined bullshit.
mhm.
Because that wouldn't explain the fact the Borg look completely different. The first appearance of the Borg was completely different to how they looked in the movie, and we were supposed to believe it's because they evolved. Therefore, if this is an evolved one going forward, it must be changing the timeline, as any diehard Star Trek fan would know, because otherwise they would look like the first appearance of the Borg.
Yeah, these are the Borg that came back from the future, so that whatever Borg attack happened there probably wasn't supposed to happen.
That was my point.
Yeah, it does
Therefore,
make sense.
it's going to change. It's going to change how they first met them in Next Generation, because they would be a more advanced Borg because they've got the means to be advanced from these other ones.
But they wouldn't have, because those Borg never made it to the Borg homeworld. All they did was send a signal. They never actually made it there to share their advanced future technology.
But they sent them. They sent them all their databases.
No, all they did was send a distress call saying, "Come find the Enterprise in the human sector." That was about all they got off.
Yeah, and it was supposed to also be their data about what they'd found, which would also in which when the Borg transmit stuff, it also includes data off themselves. Therefore, they'd have the data on.
I don't know about that. I think it's just a verbal message. I don't think it was enough data to drastic. Other than, oh, we know that there's
Plus-
enemies over there. We should go get when we're advanced enough to do that. I don't think it was anything more than just a message that would have caused them to have that much more advancement in technology.
Plus, as I was saying, plus also the fact the Doctor cured part of it,
Yeah, that blindsided me. I'm like, wait, you had a cure for this? Like, wait, what the fuck?
which means it's changed. It has to have changed the timeline. I understand why they did it, because the Borg equals ratings. Hey, the Borg were treated better here than they were in Voyager,
Yeah,
but it's still following on from that shitty First Contact film.
it is. I like that film, but fair enough. I understand why people don't.
Yeah, the Borg didn't need a Borg queen. Kind of underdoes
Yeah,
their purpose, but
a little bit.
like I said, they went there, and it's like, okay, that's weird. It's
Yep.
also weird because if the Borg thing happened there in the past, then that means everything they knew about First Contact would have been dramatically altered.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have to have been in the timeline after the Borg have interfered, or it wouldn't still be there.
Yeah.
Which I like. I like how they've described First Contact in more the Kirk universe before Next Gen fucked it up with that film.
How do they describe it?
Well, they described it basically more iconic, like how he's actually described itself. The dude in question is described as this basically philosopher type. You know what I mean? Like high standards. And I know they excuse it in the film of, oh, well, it's all bullshit. People will make up what they want. But that doesn't change the fact you've changed how he's meant to be. He's meant to be this heroic character that inspires people.
Mm-hmm.
He's not supposed to be some dickhead that constantly wants to go pee.
Fair enough. I did think it was cool they worked the Borg in there, and they did it in such a way that, okay, it makes sense because they're the Borg from the future, but they stopped it enough that it didn't become a recurring threat, and they could excuse why it wasn't coming all the time. So that worked out.
Yep. Which,
Um,
like I said, I still liked it. I still liked the Borg episode. I just had little bits of problems with it.
Yeah, which is understandable.
Like, I find it really funny when it's like, oh my god, I don't think this war's over. I think this war will happen again. And then mentions the exact century, and I'm like, oh, come on.
When said they postponed it about 200 years.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's silly. But his words were, I think we've postponed it until the 23rd century, or what the hell he said. And I'm like,
Is that what he said? Okay.
really? You're gonna be that specific?
Well, I think they were able because they knew, assuming the Delta Quadrant is this far away and it will take a signal this long to travel, they had a time estimate.
Yeah, but that's still really oddly specific.
It is.
And you'd think if you knew about the war would come at that exact century, warn the ships of that century.
You would think.
But like I said, it creates a little bit of plot holes, but it's
Yeah,
fine. Whenever you deal with time travel, you normally get that.
pretty much. That's kind of inevitable.
However, I will also say for the ratings this season, Trip became fan service.
Yeah,
And I'm just going to point that out because I think it's bullshit. No one will point that out, but they'll point out anytime T'Pol is fan service.
yeah. DePaul was very fan service.
Not as much. The amount of episodes that had the excuse to get him into his blue tank top and shorts this season was ridiculous.
That is true. They did that a lot more than they did. But then again, they made up for that by saying, "Okay, we're gonna have a whole episode that's nothing but T'Pol is insanely horny and trying to rape male crew members."
Yeah, but they also had an entire episode where he was, look, I'm stranded as this hunky, sexy swamp dude with a
That's true.
princess.
That's true. He banged a
And
princess in a
multiple
swamp.
episodes where he did it too. If you add them all up, he's appeared more on screen as look how hunky I am as opposed to her.
Yeah,
Plus, to be fair, it's a Star Trek series. Whenever there's a Vulcan on board, you normally get them dealing with that in some way.
true.
So it had to come out eventually. But I was just pointing that out. It was weird how much he became fan service. Although the episode with the princess was good, I did like that.
Yeah, that was a good. That was a fun episode.
And I liked her.
Yeah. So did that thing come up with Spock on the TV show, or did they wait until the movie to introduce that when he was being reborn?
I can't remember if it was in the TV show, but either way, it still happened to Spock.
Yep. Fair enough.
It's tradition.
Yeah. Speaking of things that apparently screwed up our perceptions of First Contact, apparently T'Pol's great grandmother and some Vulcans crash landed on Earth in the 1950s, and one of them just stayed there.
That was a great story.
It was an amazing story. It just screws up all of history.
But it doesn't really screw it up because, as she mentioned, they stayed out the way. They didn't interfere with the First Contact.
No,
First Contact is when the Vulcans officially decide that we're worthy. These didn't make the contact of that. They stayed blended in. Therefore, it's allowed.
It is, but it didn't change the fact that Trip was like, you realize you just rewrote all of our history books.
Yeah, he did, but so.
Yeah, but that was a really good story, though. I was really enthralled by that. And then the fact that she played it off as, it's not a real thing, but then she had the purse. That was really cool.
Also, Trip had a great moment in this season, which you may or may not agree with, but that's fine. Basically, he teaches a girl who's being bred for the sole purpose of giving them children how to read, write, and tries to integrate her into the world. But he does
the co-janitor, yeah.
Yeah, but he does so heavy-handedly that she ends up killing herself. Yep. Which, it's funny because I think that needed to happen. Not that she needed to kill herself. But that
they needed the message of him educating her?
No. I was getting to it, but stop doing that. But yes, I was saying we needed, obviously with her killing herself, I didn't think she needed to kill herself, but we needed some sort of consequences. Because as he brings up in the episode, he mentions to Archer, this is what you do. Which is how the fans have perceived Archer as always just rushing in headstrong on some parts of like, fuck the rules, I'm Archer. Which like Archer said, no, I always try to find some way that still stays within the rules. And if I think it's going to dramatically affect their psyche or affect who they are, I won't do it because it's not worth it. I'm like, that's a great message where, okay, when Archer's rushing in, it's because he generally thinks it's the best thing to do, and he also thinks it's actually going to help. He doesn't think there's going to be any fallout to this degree. Because Tripp's way of doing it was kind of heavy-handedly. Archer's way of doing it would have been more to free them all at once so they could all be rehabilitated, or try to do something more than this. And she killed herself, which is depressing, but it was needed.
Yeah, it was a good consequence, and I did like the fact that even Archer, like, and it's like almost a moment of self-reflection. Like, she's like, I just did what you did, sir. You did what I would have done. I must be doing a piss poor job at setting an example around here.
Yeah, but that was more sarcastic.
It was, but still. Because let's be honest, it's not totally, Archer does have a habit of running, and he's had to learn over the course of the time he's been out here the same thing that Tripp is now learning. I'd say, it's like back when. How about that time when Archer found that planet that had 2 races on it, and he had to decide whether to let the one die or keep them alive, but subject the other one to being eternally the second bit race on the planet. I mean, he rushed in like, no, we definitely got to heal these people. Fuck this other race. And Doug Flock's like, no, I can't do that.
Yeah, which, to be fair, he learned something, but he still went to the doctor and he still got advice. Tripp did it all on his own.
He did, yeah.
And fucked it up and cost an innocent person their life. So
yeah,
it's not what Archer does.
No, that's it.
But but we did have loads. Like I said, we had loads of little cool stuff like that this season.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, a lot of great character development on some of the characters here. I thought that was really cool. I like the episode they did with Hoshi, where she was caught in the transporter and had this weird hallucination that she had disappeared from existence and everything, and was trying to stop aliens from blowing the ship up. That was cool.
And it lasted all of 8 seconds.
Actually, it probably just happened in the first 2 or 3.
Yeah. That's what I was on about when they said it was probably a couple of seconds, and then by the end they said it might have been more 8. But
yeah,
and I was like, okay, that's cool.
But that was interesting because I'm pretty sure that's the I think that's the phenomenon referred to in later series as transporter psychosis. It just didn't have a name yet.
Yep.
That was really cool because as soon as it happened, I'm like, oh, this is transporter psychosis. But then it seemed more like, oh, wait, maybe this is real. And then when she was invisible, walking around and going through things, I'm like, oh, wait, is this that thing that happened to Geordi and Roe in that Next Gen episode where they became fake cloaked? I'm like, no, that's not it either. And then it turned out to be in her head anyway. Like, oh, okay, fair enough.
Yep. They actually honed in more this season on what the core group is.
Yes.
Because as much as I like all of them, there's only 3 main characters now. There was a bit in the first season, but the main 3 is Tripp, T'Pol, Archer.
Pretty much.
The others all take back seats to that, which is fair enough.
Yep.
And they all faded into the background a bit more this season, but when they had their episodes, they had their episodes.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of, recurring. I mean, that's the main series was always, Kirk Bones and Spock. Next Gen was always Picard, Riker, and Data for the most part.
Yeah, that's what I was on about. They honed in on what the core ones would be at this season.
Yeah.
Because there's normally a trinity.
Yep. Which is good. And they have great, the actors have great chemistry all between them, and that works really well.
Yep. And like I said, we got some just great episodes this season. We
really did.
There was one bad episode that hurts the season as a whole, but I still enjoyed the episodes.
Yep.
I can't remember if that was this season or last season, but I liked the episode where they found, essentially speaking, the space station. They let them on board, and then read the oxygen and made it all like them. And was like, no, we're going to transport all your food. We're going to do everything you want. And they kind of did a shit job repairing the ship. They fake tried to kill someone.
Oh yeah, that was this season. Yeah, they there's this weird annotation which it took them aboard and said, pay us with some some warp plasma and we'll fix your ship, and here's some food that we scan your database to be able to replicate and all this advanced stuff. And then it turned out we do that, but we also take one of your crew members and turn them into a human computer.
Yep. Which is
they,
good.
They tried to do to Tucker, but they managed to get him back, luckily.
Yep. And like you saw as well, we also or like the episode you mentioned where you also saw the stuff with the relationships between them increasing with the Vulcans and all that in that episode. I found it really cool that we actually saw not just the people who are going to form the Federation, but you actually saw the Vulcans become nicer in that episode because the head Vulcan who keeps appearing in this episode, I love the fact it's the same guy. He's actually grown to as the blue guy mentions to Archer, and he's like, I think he likes you. Well, I wouldn't go that far, but he's clearly growing to like him. He's actually growing to like this team of humans, and the
He
Vulcans are
is.
softening up.
Yeah, that is really cool.
So we're not just going to be dick Vulcans all year, or all
Yeah,
the time.
yeah, which is good. Yeah, I was gonna say what else.
We also had millions upon millions dying in the final episode.
Yeah, that kind of. I remember I'd heard something about a Zindi attack on Earth in this series, but I didn't really know much about it. That was not what I expected.
Yep, it's like pew, with a laser straight down the planet.
Yep, from Florida to Venezuela.
Yep, it was awesome, and
They killed.
it killed,
They killed Trip's baby sister.
which was awesome. The effect looked good. It ripped a hole in the planet, and suddenly the stakes for that future war suddenly got raised even more. And now
Yeah.
Archer was having to team with the Shadow guy who season one was just fucking with him.
Yep.
Season two, it's like, okay, no, and even the Shadow guy, like, yeah, but if this happens, it's gonna wipe you out. And I kind of need you for something later, which I just thought that was cool. And you got the Vulcans and the humans now starting to accept time travel's happening.
But the Vulcan Science Council has determined that time travel is impossible.
And then they saw the thing in that episode with the scanning, which is kind of my point, Jim, of they saw the
I was
scan,
being sarcastic.
which is good because when we get to the original series, we deal with time travel. Hell,
Yep,
there's a whole movie about it.
pretty much.
So we
Several,
know,
actually.
yeah, so it's kind of cool to see that, okay, now they're starting to believe Archer. That's cool.
And this is why they needed to set the ground for the this will, I'm sure would inevitably lead to the creation of the Department of Temporal Investigations within Starfleet.
Maybe. But maybe
Yeah,
not, because I'm not sure if they were in place during Kirk's era.
that's true. We didn't get a reference to it in Kirk's era, although it was mentioned in later eras that they had a whole.
Yeah, but they'd have a file on them. It's like they had a file on Archer and who he was. The guy literally mentioned he pulls them up. They've gone through all the history of the Federation and Starfleet and stuff, and took all the knowledge because when they go back in time, they need knowledge of that time.
Yep.
Which I like that, and I do like I said, I love the time travel stuff aspect of this season, so it gives more of a stake.
Yeah, very much so. They did a really great job.
And I love that. Like I said, coming up, we will have season 3, which will be like season 1 and 2, and we have season 4, which I love because it's just a lot of it's strings of multi-part episodes, some of which are fan service, some of which are just really fucking good stories. They're probably the best multi-part episodes of any Star Trek is season 4.
Nice. I'm looking forward to getting there. But we had a couple other characters we got to learn more about in this season too. We got to see Tucker go home to his parents' cargo ship, where we found out that his father unfortunately passed away, and we see the kind of life that he came from, and that not everybody on the cargo ship is entirely happy with the fact that he went off to Starfleet, particularly his brother, who has inherited the title of captain since his father passed away. And I like how we saw that relationship, and then having to kind of, realizing it's going to be a little bit rough, that his brother's going to take time to get accustomed as captain, and that Tucker has to understand that Starfleet is something bigger than just this, and it's important, and his mother trying to be supportive and everything else, and that was a really good episode.
Yep. We also got to meet the Doctor's wife, who of course hits on Trip.
Of course. But to their credit,
He's
it's not that
okay with
creepy.
it.
Well, to their credit, it's not that creepy because Denobulans are polyamorous.
And yep, which, like I said, it was cool, but it was just weird because out of all the ones to hit on straight away, it's eye candy guy,
Yeah.
which is what he's becoming this season. And I kind of think I know why. To be fair,
Why?
Well, A, if you've obviously seen him, but B, with that, it's also a case of like, did you ever watch the documentary? I think it was Trekkies.
I don't believe I did.
They did Trekkies and they did Trekkies 2, a documentary just about the fans. And the first one was all about the diehard, crazy fans. The
Right.
second one, which were the proper Trekkie ones, then the second one, they made it to make up for the fact they only showed the geeky, badder fans. They didn't
Hmm.
show the ones who love it but don't suddenly make it, so they have to dress like a Starfleet officer to go to work,
Yeah.
which was cool. And in that season, the amount of women who were like, "Oh my god, yeah, I love," and they mentioned the guy who played Trip, and they have like a whole wall of his picture because they had massive crushes on him because he's so gorgeous. And like, you know what? If they wanted ratings and they know he's eye candy to a lot of the women viewers, I can easily understand why it's always him. For some, his accent, his boyish charms, and his look, women love that. Therefore, it makes sense that they're gonna keep using him that way.
Hmm. That does make sense. We also in this season got to learn a little bit more about Malcolm and his backstory in two different episodes. In the first one, a mine gets stuck on the outside of the ship. I think that was this season. A mine gets stuck on the outside of the ship, and so Malcolm has to go out and try to disarm. Yeah, that was the Romulan one. That is the season, and he had to go try to disarm the mine. And the problem is the stupid mine jams a thing through his leg and traps him on the hull. So Archer has to go out and disarm the mine with his instructions. And while they're doing this to try to keep Malcolm focused, he asks Malcolm about his family and his history. And we learn more about the fact that for many generations, Malcolm's family were in the Royal Navy. And the fact that he bucked that trend because, kind of in a family embarrassment, he's afraid of water. And that was kind of a cool thing to learn. That's why he went into space.
Yep, I
And
do like him.
yeah, and we learned more about him, and there's another episode we learned about him too. I'm trying to remember which one it was. Oh, the one where him and wait, was it him? Yeah, where the two of them go down to they were visiting this planet and they left a communicator behind, which is like, oh, that's gonna corrupt technology and cause problems. So they have to go back down and find it, and they end up getting captured by a military faction, and they end up talking in prison about whether they're gonna willing to sacrifice their lives to maintain the illusion that they're from the enemy faction, so that they're against all signs that they're aliens to try to preserve the innocence of this planet for all intents and purposes.
Which was cool because that planet was clearly going through their version of our World War Two.
Pretty
Like they
much,
got like the guys that captured them were clearly Nazi aliens,
a little bit.
which that's cool. And we also saw him be a little bit more playful when, God, which episode when they had the guests and we had the female who insulted Earth's food as being not very
Yeah,
aromatic.
that was
So
that was the one with the chick that Trip got killed.
yeah, so he brought in loads of like fruit and he brought in loads of cheeses and stuff just to try and please her. And I'm like, that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, because they were very, and then it turned out that she really did like him the whole time, and they do that thing at the end where he's like, "Well, at least let me buy you dinner first." Ah, it's different on my planet. On my planet, a woman does not give a man the honor of dinner unless he has succeeded in pleasing her.
Yep.
That was a lot of fun. And
Yeah,
I did like the one in the DePaul episode where she's acting all irrational, where she's like like come on, do me, and it's been previously established in that in the Good Bottle episode that he has a thing for DePaul that he keeps hidden, and the fact that he has to resist that and still shut her down, and that was kind of cool.
yep, which is even funnier because in the episode where they kept being possessed, his possessed version hits on her
Yeah,
and is like, "You're very attractive. Let me see your body," and stuff like that. And she's like,
yeah,
"Is something wrong? Are you feeling okay?"
yeah. That was an interesting episode too, where they had
And it's
the
really
evolved.
funny just because, spoiler, I know who T'Pol ends up with.
I've heard as well.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say it, yeah, but and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's I
It
can't.
wasn't the one I wanted.
Well, it makes sense though because they established very early on that they had more of a connection because like that time he read her letter by mistake, and so she kind of already trusted him with some personal things, so it kind of makes sense that they had a bit of a connection already.
Yeah, we will, yeah, which I might as well just mention it. Yeah, it's Trip,
Yeah.
of course. But I wanted her to be with Archer. I thought those two had more of a connection and more on screen chemistry.
Yeah, and they did kind of hint at that in that episode where Fox was talking to Archer, like, Captain, when's the last time you got laid?
Oh, spoiler for later on, but we get to that more later. Obviously, later on when we see, I think it's the Mirror Universe episode. In the alternate universe, she's dating him.
Ah, nice.
Yeah,
I'm
but
looking forward to that.
we get to see that, which is cool. And fun fact: Trip and T'Pol's first baby is Spock.
No, it's not. Good try,
Canon.
though. No, it's not. Vulcans have a long time, but not that long. Spock would have been like 200 years old by the time he was on Kirk's ship, for God's sake. Well, 150 anyway.
It depends because of how much they age. A Vulcan is actually pregnant for about 50 years before she gives birth.
No, she's not. Stop making shit up about this race.
This is how Vulcans work. You see,
No,
because
it's
they
not.
age slower,
No,
they also
no,
give birth at a slower
no,
rate,
no, no,
roughly at about
no,
100 times that on
no,
Earth.
no, no. We here, Pest, do not support the rantings of Chris the Mole.
And you can tell the Vulcan baby because when it's born, it does the neck pinch to its umbilical cord, and that's how you can tell. All of this are facts. Well, they're not. But yeah, basically, like I said,
Or they're not.
but yeah, like you said, we get to see loads of like I said, there's loads of little scenes in this, and I like I said, I like the Enterprise crew. I love their ship, and I just love, like I said, I just love the chemistry between all of them. And I
Yeah,
will say, I think they did a good job this season by not focusing on Hoshi.
Okay.
I mean, we got one episode that focused on her, but besides that, if you'll notice, whenever they do focus on it, unfortunately, I'm going to say she's probably the weakest character.
Yeah.
Only because her character consists of constantly freaking out, and that's it. Like, her character trait is whenever danger happens or whenever she's told to do something stressful, she freaks out, and that's her main character trait. Which
That
means
she speaks a lot of languages.
even that, though, like I said, that's more of a skill than a character trait. Her character trait's more, I'm freaking out every time. It's like, I
Yeah.
can't do this. I can't do this. And it's like,
Yeah.
I understand why, because that's what type of personality she is, and you do get people like that. But to see it constantly would have been more annoying. So to cut it out a bit more, it makes
Yeah.
sense.
That did work, yeah.
I also thought Archer took more of a backseat this season.
A little bit, yeah. But I guess
But
the first season was so Archer heavy, they probably wanted to take some time to explore the other characters a little bit more.
they did, but I just find that weird because most Star Trek ones, they mainly focus on the captain.
Yeah.
Assuming the captain's good. That's why Voyager didn't.
Yeah.
But none of them were good on that.
Yeah, no, there was nothing good on
Hi, racist Indian.
Well, let's be honest. The Doctor was good on that show. Nobody else was.
I didn't even like him that much.
No, I like the Doctor. Fair enough. His episodes are the only ones that were remotely tolerable. Anyway.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I didn't think any of them were tolerable.
Yeah, fair enough. But it was good. Yeah, it was good that they got away with Archer because Archer was, the main storyline of the season of pissing off the Klingons, getting arrested by the Klingons, escaping Klingon prison. He was recurring in the main storyline, so it was a good idea that they got to get away from the Archer focus. They did some stuff with other characters so that when they were coming back to the main storyline with the Archer focus, people were interested, like, oh, it's Archer again. Let's pay attention to what's going on here. This is important.
Yep. Yeah, and sadly, as we know, the ratings were down a bit.
Yeah.
Which it's unfortunate. Different people didn't like it, which is fine. Some people didn't give it a try, various other stuff. To the point that this season, unlike season 1, didn't end with the cliffhanger part 1 episode as much.
Yeah.
Like they weren't really 100% sure it would get season 3, but they were like, just in case, we think it will, but there's a more chance it won't. So let's not end on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, I also like the other one I really liked, and I think it was this season. Hang on, there's one other one I didn't want to mention that was cool. Where is it? No, that's not it. It's not that one. No, that's not it. Communicator, no. That's it. Singularity, episode 35. That was another really good episode.
35? There's only
35.
26 a season.
35 overall, not from this season. They continue the numbering.
Yeah, I'm just saying that for the people listening because we're only reviewing this season, so 35 of
Fair
this
enough.
season.
Sorry, this starts at 28, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but that was I like that episode because that was the episode in which the Enterprise was going to visit a trinary star system, but the radiation from that system starts making everybody act really irrationally and focusing on minuscule things that are not that important except to Paul because apparently Vulcans are immune.
So you mean irrationally?
Irrationally, yes. And so, like Trip starts focusing on, on Archer's chair and making it some insane throne chair, which is great. And Dr. Phlox is like, Tuck, not Tuck, fucking Mayweather had this,
Floyd?
Tucker. And Tucker had this thing where he went to the doctor with a minor headache, and Dr. Phlox was affected rather strenuously, and kept doing these more and more advanced tests. He got to the point where he had a chain to the tail, and he started cutting his head open with a scalpel to find out what was wrong. It's what Paul pinched him and shut him down. And then Archer getting obsessed with writing this preface for a book about his father that's been written, a biography, and he gets obsessed with that. And the relevant one that I wanted to mention was, and I thought was really cool that we got to see in that episode, was Malcolm. Because Malcolm gets obsessed with this new protocol that he's developing that he's trying to find a name for. He ends up calling it Tactical Alert, but it's what most Star Trek fans would know as the Red Alert Protocol we've seen in all the Star Trek series, where if a captain orders it, or if whoever's in command, or if enemies show up, if there's a hull strike or something, Red Alert will trigger and automatically raise shields, bring weapons online, and basically be prepared for battle and to defend itself. And we see Malcolm invent this, realizing that the reaction times are just too slow. And he goes insane about it like everybody else, but it ends up saving the day at the end when T'Pol's trying to get Archer to fly the ship out of the system while he's half out of it. And it brought the weapons online to blast the asteroids out of the way right when they needed it to. So that was pretty cool.
It was. But I will say the ending of that episode, I was a little like, oh, come on. Where the Archer said they can learn from what Malcolm's done. It was a good job that it powered up the weapons, it saved our lives. We can use that in the future. Cool. Yep. Archer learned what to focus on for his dad. He honed it all in. He learned what he wrote. Great. Trip just lowers the chair 3 inches or 3
centimeter.
Oh yeah, 1 centimeter. And I'm like, really? Oh come on! I wanted to see his ridiculous Homer Simpson reveal of his car.
Yes, I wanted to see that
with
too.
The dome and stuff. And just Archer fall down and go, "We're ruined."
Yeah.
I wanted to see. I wanted to see a different chair. I didn't think I just lowered it 1 centimeter. It's like, really? Well, he's taken off, but yeah, like I said, we did get other stuff for people still watching, which was good.
Yeah, there was just a lot of great this season. I thought they took what they did in season 1 and just really expanded upon it and got stronger. There was a lot of great stories this episode. There was a lot of great exploration of the characters. There was further development of the temporal Cold War, but not so much that it overshadowed everything else. We just saw a lot. What's that?
I said season.
Yep.
No, I'm just saying, actually, you said there's a load of great stories this episode.
Oh, sorry, this season. My apologies. But yes, this season is a really good one. Check out season 2. It's like I said, it takes what season 1 did, expands on it, grows it, and just so many really good episodes. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to season 3 and seeing where we go from here.
It does. I will say I didn't think it was much better than season 1. I thought season 1 and this were about equal, because this was brought down by its bad episode. Plus, season 1 had a lot more really good episodes, I felt.
Fair enough.
Like, it had the really amazing bottle episode.
It did, that's true.
Or it ended on that part 1 that left you saying, oh my god, what the fuck? Oh my god, what's going to happen? And which you found anticlimactic in season 2.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that, but I know you didn't. I know you found it anticlimactic. I thought it was a perfect ending.
It was a great season one ending. It was just one of those. It's one of those things where, and this has happened in Star Trek before, where they write
I mean the season 2 beginning.
Oh.
Because you said because it was part 1 was season 1, part 2 was season 2's opening episode, and you were like, and I remember you thought it was weak.
Not that it was weak. It just felt like they built this whole thing up and that they fixed it. Like it seemed like it was way too easy to fix. The destroyed future. That just seemed like it was way too easy to get Archer back. Like, oh, by the way, I'll just build a communicator I can use to save the day. Can you do that? I learned how in elementary school. It's like, really?
To be fair, it wasn't that easy. They spent the whole episode doing it. He had to keep communicating to various ones. And even then, he was still Shadow until he leaped through at the end, which was cool.
Yeah.
It wasn't like out of nowhere where it was like, yeah, I'm just going to faction it together like MacGyver. There was problems with it.
True.
And to be fair, they would know how to do that in elementary school because the technology that they used is the same one the Shadow guy uses, which is like 100 years out of date. And if you've ever been in a school, like when we were in school, the shit we were playing with is technology that like when my parents would have been in school, they would have found top of the line. We were playing with it and trying to fix and experiment with it.
Fair enough. You're right. And it just seemed like for as big as they built up, oh my god, the future's destroyed. I just felt like they could that should have been like the first 2 episodes to resolve that. It felt like it shouldn't have been resolved in just the pilot, the premiere rather.
In the premiere, we did get the thing I love too with T'Pol.
What's that?
And she's like, "Help! Ah!" And then they attack him, and she's like, "Yeah, back to normal." It was just an act to distract them so the others could attack me. I love it when she does stuff like that, and every time people fall for it.
Yeah, like that time that she pretended to seduce the Ferengi.
Yep. Now, like I said, I do still think she acts a little bit more Romulan than she does Vulcan, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, as she's been on the longer she's been on this ship, the less Vulcan she's being, and that's established even in the finale here, where she's ordered to go back to the Vulcan High Command, and she basically flat out refuses and said, "I don't care if I have to quit the Vulcan High Command. I don't want to leave this ship. You're my friends. This is where I belong. I've grown accustomed to being around emotional people and accustomed to this life."
Oh, I know that, but as I mentioned that in the last season too. Of season 1, even from around the beginning, she felt more Romulan than Vulcan to me.
Fair enough.
It happens. It's easy to mix the two up a bit.
Yep.
It's like just slight little acting things make it happen, but
yep.
I still enjoyed that. And I still enjoyed the fact she loved Frankenstein.
Yeah, that was cool. I remember that one.
Which I'm not sure if she did love it or not. I'm not sure if she did love it or not, because clearly she was using it in a way that annoyed the shit out of the others, so they didn't want to invite her anymore to movie night, which is the thing she tried to avoid.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if she was tricking them or if she genuinely suddenly became really loved of Frankenstein. She's like, I'm looking forward to Bride of Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
Which, that was just funny.
That was funny, and it's great when they can have those little humor things between the crew members. It's just a lot of fun. They have such great chemistry.
Yeah, it's like I also loved it. Like there's a lot of little jokes and stuff in this season. One thing I thought was funny, and it may not have meant to be funny, was when the dude's talking to Archer about the person Trip gets killed, and he's like, "Well, what would you do if someone tried to liberate the people you have working under you? Like, what if one of your ensigns, or whatever it was, who bring in your food, wants to leave?" And he's like,
"Yeah,
they have a choice. They're not forced to work for me. It's a choice." And I'm just like, that's brilliant. That to the outside, that's how they saw it. Well, it's the same as that, right?
Yeah. One of the people who served your food asked us for asylum.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
And I was like, that's funny.
That was, yeah. It's always interesting when they meet new races and seeing the interactions and the cultural differences, which is cool. And I don't like how they've gone out of their way in this one, because humans have met so few races, to show more than in a lot of previous series how different these other races can be. Whether it's just a complete physical difference, whether but also a lot of cultural differences. Like again, this one where they have the whole cogenitor situation. like that race they met last season where they were offended by the humans eating because it was like mating. All these how these different cultures perceive things that we don't think about, and I think it's cool that they really explored that. Whereas I think in later series, especially with the combination of both the Federation's been around for so long and is known, and the fact that the Universal Translator is so perfect in the future that pretty much there's a lot less conflict between meeting new races than there is in this time frame, and I think it's more interesting to see it now than it is to see it in Kirk or Picard's era.
Yes, and also like they mentioned, ironically, in that episode when they used a film to showcase that point of, to be fair, historically speaking, humans always act with fear whenever they meet a new race. And since whenever we do Star Trek, there's a reason everything's always humanoid. It's because we as a race, whenever we make stuff in sci-fi, we always make it as relatable to us. Like, oh, they gotta be like us. It's
Yeah.
almost egotistical at that point, but it's part of sci-fi, which is cool. And with that, each race will look at the humans suspiciously in the same comparison. Now, you get some who don't, like those religious people praying for the star, which was good. And you get some who bring them into their cultures, but a lot of them are just like, stay out of our business. This isn't to do with you.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool because you're getting to see the races starting to learn to accept each other, yes, but you're also seeing that factor of they don't know what the other ones are capable of. It's like meeting Klingons for the first time in season 1. Archer almost violated stuff that would have made the Klingons look weak.
Yeah.
Which would have been a big no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just stuff like that. Where it's like that's cool because yeah, it's like even when they saw the Borg for the first time in this season, they react. It's almost like a horror film, but in a sci-fi setting for the best. A horror as horror Star Trek can be.
Yeah.
Because the Borg was like this just unrelenting threat, and they didn't know what to do because they don't have knowledge of the Borg. Therefore, they were doing some of the same tricks they've tried in like Next Gen against the Borg
Yeah.
and failed miserably.
Yeah. Although it
Like,
did, it did seem to me that when Archer and Malcolm beamed over to their ship before the.
you were broken up like mad there.
Oh, sorry. I said it seemed to me like when Archer and Malcolm beamed over to the Borg ship, though, it seemed to me like they got off way more shots than they should have before the Borg adapted.
They did, but to be fair, the Borg was weaker and damaged.
True. That's true.
Like we literally saw like the female Borg, the hot female Borg. Okay, she wasn't hot. The weird female Borg who was doing the control switches and stuff. Like when they shot her at first, she's already damaged. She's like, just shrugs it off and just keeps doing it.
Yeah.
Then eventually she's like, no, you know what? I'm gonna get them.
Yep.
Which was cool. And then they did the slowest like zombie as they come and grab them and stuff.
Yeah.
It was cool because the Borg is a threat because but even though they're weaker, they're still a threat at this point.
Yeah, but I liked how they started off. They found them in the Arctic because that just gave it a thing from another world feel.
Yep.
It's like, oh, we gotta continue. We gotta stop. I forget now. Well, they converted the ship and took off. Damn it.
Yep, and even that weapon, like I said on the last episode, where it goes opens up and just the laser. It's so cool to look.
It is.
It's like it's probably one of the most coolest weapons in Star Trek.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
It just has that vroom death to it. I honestly thought at one point I thought it was gonna. When I first saw it, I thought it was gonna cut the planet in half, but it didn't. That's why this time I was like, no, I'm not gonna fall for it again as it goes down. I thought it was like gonna rip through the planet, just blow it up like Death Star style, just rip through it in half or something. But no, it's not as powerful as a Death Star apparently. But yeah, very few are. But yeah, but like I said, it's just cool seeing them do that. And like they even mentioned when they met the other race, when they're like, well, yeah, no, our weapons still use those types of stuff to recharge. Yeah, this is primitive, but we still use that. And you're like, okay, so you can see where the technology is going to evolve. And the more they speak to other races, the better technology they're getting.
Yeah.
Like the cloaking one.
Yep.
The cloaking ship that made Trip's arm disappear.
Yeah. The Suliban cell ship.
Yeah, that was just great when his arm disappeared. And he's like, "Well, doctor, what do you recommend?" He just hands him a glove.
Yep.
And I'm like, you know what? That is a simple solution. I approve. Like I said, I loved the episode with the princess. I thought she was a good character. I hope she comes. I hope we get to see more of her. I don't think we got to see her in any of the later Star Trek series.
No, not that I can recall. I don't recall that race even being brought up, but that was still cool that they did that.
Yeah, and it's cool.
Yep. So, final thoughts.
Yeah, like I said, it's about the same as season one. I think overall, if you compare the two, because its weakest episode at this point is weaker than any of season one.
True.
Its strongest one, I'm gonna say its strongest one isn't even as strong as season one. So season one might be a tad better, but this one's more cohesive.
Mhm.
So it gets a plus on. So I'm gonna say that about Eve Call, and yeah, like I said, I'd still recommend checking out this season. That's the reason we're doing this anyway. So
Yeah.
my ratings won't change. So it's a case of yeah, just check out the season. It's a great season, and it deserves another chance.
Agreed.
Help us make Star Trek great again. Thank you.
Yes. I agree. I really enjoyed the season. It is definitely, I think, at least on par with season one. The one bad episode, like we mentioned, does bring us down a little bit.
Your cover's wrong.
Anyway, but yeah, Enterprise is really good, and I do recommend going to check out season two. Watch season one first. You'll enjoy season two more if you watch season one first, obviously. But overall, a lot more character development for the crew members in this one. A lot more seeing as of the other races we know, the Klingons in particular. More about the Suliban. The Temporal War kicks up a lot of great stuff. So check it out.
Yep. Which, to be fair, yeah, you do need to see season one to understand the Sullivan and all that stuff with it.
Yep. So,
And I still love the theme song.
'cause I got fear for the heart.
Yeah, like I said, I know some people are like, boo, Star Trek songs shouldn't have lyrics. To be fair, the original series one was supposed to have lyrics at one point.
Yeah, and then they just removed them.
Yeah, and I'm like, there's no reason. There's no reason to say it couldn't, because it's not like there's one Star Trek theme. Each season has a different theme song.
Yes, although a point that some people have made, and I will agree with this, the end theme that plays over the end credits would have been good as an opening theme if they had chosen to go that way.
I disagree. As I mentioned last season, I think the opening song they gave is the perfect opening song because what they wanted with this season is for it to not just feel like a normal Star Trek season because people were getting kind of bored of that.
Mm-hmm.
What they wanted to do is make it something new and fresh and give a new audience it. That felt like a lot of theme songs at the time, and it's just so inspirational that you feel like you got hope with this group on their first mission. Like, yeah, it's cool. It just differentiates it because, to be fair, it wasn't even called Star Trek. It was just
True.
called Enterprise. It's like it's trying to be different. Therefore, yeah, you can't really complain. It's like I love the original because I know you like using these analogies. I love the original WWE logo
Mm-hmm.
or WWF logo. When we went to the Attitude Era, it needed to be different, so I still appreciate why they did the scratch logo.
Mm-hmm. And I liked it when they finally realized they were past the Attitude Era, they made it the current logo, which I do
Yeah,
like.
that wasn't when they were past the Attitude Era. That was when they were past like two other eras.
Oh, okay.
Because we got through Ruthless Aggression, and then we were on like PG era, whatever they called it, and it was on another one. Because I think this is now the reality era.
I thought this was the new era.
That's what WWE calls it, but a lot of fans have been calling it the reality era because it really kicked off when they started doing stuff like CM Punk on top of the stage and they're using social media more. There's reality TV shows. There's NXT, which bleeds the lines between developmental and TV. with breaking grounds and stuff. It's more reality based now than it's ever been.
Fair enough. And that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
which, like I said, it's just a great song, and that montage that does it with
yeah,
where it shows the Enterprise and stuff. And keep watching that opening. I will just say that when we get to season 4.
I know the Mirror Universe wants to have a different opening.
It does. You shouldn't be looking up the seasons before you watch them, Jim.
I'm not looking up. I knew I've heard about all this stuff a long time ago.
You
These are
could
just
not.
these are just things that people. These are just things that people that have saw the series have told me about.
Nah, I was gonna say it couldn't be because I don't. None of the people we speak to have watched that, and you were still surprised they did the Borg.
I wasn't surprised they did the Borg. I remember I had heard that the Borg because one of you, Jeff or somebody hits Marcus Shadow.
I mentioned it, but when you spoke to Marcus about it later.
Oh, okay, well, somebody had mentioned the Borg showed up.
Yeah, but the Mirror Universe credits is just good.
Yeah, and actually, Tachi has seen Enterprise, so he's mentioned it. Different things.
Has he?
Yeah.
Last time we asked about it, his exact words were, "It's a piece of crap. I didn't watch it."
I think he watched it. I just don't think he liked it.
I don't think he watched it because, like I said, he said the phrase he didn't watch it. I think he just looked stuff up.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
He's never seen the animated series.
Fair enough. But anyway, yeah, that was season 2.
Massive Star Trek fan.
Yeah. Anyway, that was season 2. Go check it out. Mole, thanks for joining me.
Pleasure.
And we'll see you. Let's see what we got coming up. This Wednesday, you can see both our review of Goosebumps the game and the final countdown where we count down the top 5 Goosebumps stories. So stay tuned for those. And
Is that both?
That is how we scheduled it. Yes.
Okay. As long as the times match up, because we didn't discuss the times and everything being as late as it is. It's like right now it's past midnight, which is the time I've said I'm no longer recording past during the weekdays.
Okay, well then we might have to push one back. But anyway, stay tuned for that and more Enterprise next month. Peace.